All right, so can you see my slide? All right, so yesterday we started the course and we were able to cover the key concepts of service management. We were able to cover the ITIL service value system, and then today we will continue from where we stop, which is the use of guiding principle. But before then, let's just do a quick review of what we did. Yesterday we said that ITIL 4 is the current version of ITIL, and which is a particular model that evolved from looking at an holistic view of IT service management, looking at operational silos to be a flexible value flow, and also taking input from other frameworks like the Agile, like the DevOps, okay, like the Lean. And with that, ITIL 4 also regard principle as a central theme in the sense that it is better to move away from rules and focus more on principle. And this also integrates with other frameworks and methodology that is being accepted as the basic underpinning principle which all other framework shares. Also, we mentioned that product management is another trend among IT organizations, which is defined as the configuration of resources that will potentially be valuable to customers. So, in the light of product management, we see service management also as one of the things that can actually be the main thing from where you can get your product management, in the sense that service management is a way of creating value for customers without necessarily the cost co-creating value for customers. And as a subset of service management, product management also forms a part. And this also is part of the thing that we are going to talk about in ITIL 4. And what are the key concepts of service management? We started by defining what a service management is. Service management is a specialized organization capability for enabling value for customers in the form of service. And we equally mention that the capabilities that are required are the nature of the value that is to be delivered to customer, the scope of the stakeholders that will be involved, and also how the value creation can be enabled through different services. So service management is not the same as service. The service management is a set of specialized organizational capability for enabling value for customers. However, how do you define service? Service is a means. Okay, so look at the keyword there. The keyword in service management is a set of specialized organizational capability. So service management is about capability, whereas service itself is a means of enabling value co-creation by facilitating the outcomes that customers will want to achieve without the customer managing the specific costs and the associated risk as well. So we also define that services that are being provided are based on one or more products, and that's also bringing the product management concept that we earlier mentioned. So products is expected to be the configuration of resources which is being created by organization that is valuable to customers. And we equally mention that service offering, that is a description. The keyword there again is description of one or more services that is being designed to address the need of a target customer group. Example is when a laptop is supplied with a power, with the operating system being installed, with the application being installed, that is a description of a service. And then we said service offering can be in form of goods, which is being supplied, like a laptop, like a physical server, like a mobile phone. We said service description can also be in form of access to resources. Okay, in the case of goods, the ownership is transferred to the consumer. In the case of access to resources, ownership is not transferred to the customer. And I give example of access to mobile network. If you buy a Vodacom SIM card, you have access to Vodacom network for voice call. You can also use it for data if you subscribe to data, if you are given the access to that. That's access to resources. We also mentioned the third one, which is the service action. Service action is performed by the provider as a way of addressing the consumer needs. That is also based on agreement that has been made with the customer or the SLA. An example of service action is a user support or a request for replacement of an equipment. As long as it's within the warranty period, then the replacement will be made. We also define what a value is. We said value is the perceived benefit. Value can also be regarded as the usefulness and importance of something, and that value is subjective. And because it's subjective, it means that you need to consider the different stakeholder because each stakeholder define value differently. Okay, and we equally mention that for value to be created, three things are important: one, the outcomes, the costs, and the risk. So for value to be created, the outcome must be supported, the cost must be removed, and the risk must also be removed. However, we understand that when risk is being removed, there could be some risk being introduced. When cost is being removed, there could also be some cost being introduced. Also, when outcome is supported, there could be some affected outcome as well. Okay, but for the purpose of value creation, we're looking at supported outcome, cost removed, and risk being removed as well. We also define what a provider is and a consumer. A service provider is someone that provides the service, okay, that is selling the service in an open market or selling to individual or to to a business. And we said the service provider can be internal or external. Example of internal is where you have an internal IT department providing IT services for other departments or other business units, like providing um, application for HR, okay, providing finance application for finance team, providing CRM application for the sales team. We also mentioned that a consumer is the receiving service, okay, is the one receiving services from the provider. And we said organization can play both. It depends. So at a point, an organization can be a provider. At another point, an organization can be a consumer. So to if you are not a if you are not an ISP, if your company is not an ISP, it means that you are a consumer to ISP company. All right. And then for the core services you provide, you are a service provider. So a company can be both a service provider and a service consumer. It all depends on the services that is being provided and the services that is being consumed. And then there's a relationship between both of them. So we have a service relationship between the provider and the consumer. And this relationship also is expected to provide value. Okay, so who are stakeholders? We said value can be subjective, that is, depending on different stakeholders, because value is also about perception. So the value that a particular stakeholder will be expecting will not be the same value on the same outcome. Okay, outcome is not defined the same way by different stakeholders. So organization is an example of a stakeholder, customer is an example of a stakeholder, user is an example, sponsor is also an example of a stakeholder. Who is a sponsor? Keyword is the person who authorized budget for consumption is a sponsor. The user is somebody who used the service. A customer is a person who define the requirement for a service, and that person also take responsibility for the outcome of consuming that service. And an organization can be a person or a group of people that has their own function and responsibility. They have their own authority and a relationship to achieve their set objective. So stakeholder can also be categorized as service provider employees. Stakeholder can be society and community. It can be charity organization. It could also be the shareholders. And as far as shareholder is concerned, their own value will be a financial benefit in form of dividend, okay, and also a sense of assurance and stability. So it is important that the relationship with all key holders are being understood and managed. It has to be all key stakeholders. So there has to be identification of stakeholders so as to be able to understand what each of them define as value or outcome. Okay, so it's this service relationship. We said a service relationship must exist between the service provider as well as the service consumer. Okay, and these relationship are not mutually exclusive, and this relationship ensure that both the person who provides and the person who consumes a service at any given time maintain a relationship, okay, where they both co-create value. Give example can be, for example, if your company is a Microsoft partner, sometimes you can also partake in providing a kind of input to the next thing that Microsoft wants to develop. You can co-create value with Microsoft. You can build a solution based on Microsoft, provided application, provided solution. You can do, you can build on top of it, and together with Microsoft, you can also make it available to other consumers as well. All right, so we said under service relationship, which is a relationship between the service provider and the consumer, we have what they call the relationship management, which is a joint activity that has to be performed by both to ensure a continual value creation based on agreed and available service offering. We also define what a service provision is. Provisioning is the activity performed by the provider to provide a service, that is to provision a service. Example can be to give access to resources to fulfill a service action, like for a replacement of a particular equipment. If it's in form of equipment, maybe a server was bought and there is a problem with the server, there can be a replacement. That's a provisioning. Resource management is also another way you can do provisioning. That is ways by which providers provision services. We also talk about consumption. Consumption, service consumption refers to activities that are performed by the service consumer to consume services. It could be in the sense of utilizing the resources that a provider has made available. For example, if a laptop is being provisioned, okay, by the provider, the laptop needs to be used. We mentioned before that the service provider can be internal. So if IT department provision a service for a new staff who is not in IT department, for example, that new staff, okay, whose laptop has been provisioned with Microsoft Word, with Excel, with Microsoft Productivity, with the basic tools that are required or software required to run, you know, effectively in the office. That particular staff was taking ownership of the laptop, needs to use it. So making use of it, utilizing the resources like a laptop, or making a request for maybe additional thing like you know, a mouse pad, like internet dongle. That's an example of service consumption. All right. We also differentiate between output and outcome. We said that output refers to tangible or intangible delivery of an activity. So, what the activity that is being delivered by the provider, activity delivered by a provider organization, activity delivered by the IT unit of a provider organization is what we call output. It could be tangible, like for example, a laptop that is being cloned, okay, with all the required software. That is tangible. It could be intangible. It could be email service. Email service is not tangible, but that is an example of outputs, a tangible or intangible deliverable of an activity, which of course refers to activity delivered from the provider end. Whereas outcome is a result that the stakeholder, okay, is a result that has been enabled by one or more outputs. So outcome can be defined as the result for a stakeholder. that is what a stakeholder expects to receive, that is outcome. Okay, and this outcome will be enabled by one or more output. It will also depend on the output. However, it is not the same as output. Okay, because you can have an output, and the output from the end of the service provider is seen to be doing very well. However, from the consumer side or the stakeholder side, maybe it probably lack user a good a good user experience. Okay, so user experience from the point of view of the stakeholder may be very important, and without a good user experience, it does not receive the outcome he or she is expecting, even though the products can be, I mean, the output can be fantastic, but the outcome is always measured from the perception of the stakeholder. All right, and then the provider needs to help consumer to achieve their outcome. And of course, this can be difficult for provider to understand, and that is why the provider needs to be able to predict or create a demand for certain outcome, so as to know whether this outcome that we have produced based on several outputs is actually what the customer or the consumer would love to have. Okay, and then we talk about types of costs, two types of cost. So from the point of view of the consumer, okay, consumer here can also be stakeholder. We have two things. We have outcome supported, outcome affected. Also, from the side of the consumer as well, we have two types of cost: cost removed, cost introduced. Okay, cost removed is part of value proposition. As I've mentioned that before, all the three you have here are part of value proposition. What you have on the left hand side are part of cost of consumption. So there must be value proposition, and this other one refers to the service consumption. Okay, what are the cost of consuming vis-a-vis the cost removed? So the cost removed, which of course is part of the value proposition, should outweigh the cost being introduced. Okay, then risk also. The risk removed should outweigh the risk introduced. Risk is a possible event that can cause harm or loss, or can make it difficult to achieve objective. So risk is defined as uncertainty of outcome. What can make the outcome not to be achieved? That is called risk. So from the value proposition, risk must be removed, okay, from the consumer by the service that is being provided by IT. Also, from the service consumption, there could be some level of risk introduced or imposed on the consumer by the service. I give you an example of when you look at ATM service, ATM card service. ATM card service introduced some risk and also removed some risk. ATM card service vis-a-vis a check, a bank check. A bank check, which is a physical document, all right, or that has been taken away from financial institution in South Africa, for example, has been able to remove some risk. Now, what was introduced is the ATM. So the ATM card also removes some risk that you probably have when you use the likes of your checkbook. But again, there are few risks that are also introduced when you use ATM card. Then also we define what a utility and warranty is. We said a utility is answering the question whether a service is fit for purpose. Utility refers to functionality that is being offered by a service or a product to meet a particular need. So the keyword under utility is functionality being offered, or we simply says fit for purpose. Okay, and when we talk about utility, a utility should either support performance that a consumer is expecting or remove constraint from a consumer. Okay, it can also do both as well. And then when we talk about warranty, warranty is about assurance that a product or service will meet an agreed requirement. So how will the service perform? That is what warranty answers. And to answer that, we need to determine whether the service is fit for use. And for a service to be fit for use, based on the agreement or the service level agreement, that particular service should have the agreed conditions such as the availability, capacity, secure, and continuity. So for you to say that a particular service has warranty, it means that that service is available enough, it has capacity enough, secure enough, and also continuous enough. So that is what makes warranty, which is assurance that a product or service will meet the agreed requirement. Both utility and warranty, they are both required for value to be created. So if you have utility and you do not have warranty, value cannot be created. So value is being created when you have both utility and warranty. That is to say, if you're buying a service or a product, let's look at the example of buying internet service from Vodacom. So when you buy internet service from Vodacom, all right, so the utility you expect is that the internet you are buying is able to provide the functionality for you. It's able to provide you the required bandwidth or the bandwidth size that you paid for. Okay, that is you are able to support your performance in the sense that you are able to access your email, you are able to do your work. You do not have the constraint of maybe there is load shedding, so you cannot use fiber because you now have LTE SIM card, which is inside the phone. You should be able to have internet through that. So that is removing constraint performance, or probably supporting your performance. Then warranty will be is that SIM card, okay, which is the LTE SIM card inside of your phone, does it give you internet is the internet service available every time based on your agreed time for the data to be provided? Is it having enough capacity? Okay, is it very slow? If they tell you it is 2 meg by 2 meg, is it really 2 meg? Are you able to upload? Are you able to download? Are you able to do streaming if that's part of the capacity that's supposed to provide? Then security, is it well secured or is it not secured? Then continuity means that is it something that is continuous? Continuous means if you start using it to stream a video, does it break in between or it will continue, okay, without breaking? So that's a way to define both utility and warranty. And also for the purpose of the exam, you need to take note that we are talking about both. Both of them are essential for a service to facilitate the outcome and create value. So if a service has warranty and does not have value, then that service is not creating that. If it has warranty does not have utility, then that service is not creating value. If a service has utility and does not have warranty, that service too is not going to give desired outcome and also will not be able to create value. And that was where we ended the first lesson that we did yesterday, and we took some practice questions as well. All right. So welcome, um, welcome Dalisu to today's class. We decided to take the review of yesterday just to also take that time to allow you to join us. Okay, so welcome. Okay, no problem. So you never missed anything. We're just doing the review of what we did yesterday. All right. So yesterday, so we did talk about four dimensions of service management, and we said this relates to the four P's that we have before in the previous version of IT, that is the ITIL version 3. Okay, and then we look at the different four dimensions, and we said these dimensions are organizations and people. We look at the information and technology, partners and suppliers, value streams, and processes. Okay, so these four dimensions, they do not have any boundaries, and they can also overlap. So you can have the organization and people, information and technology overlapping, and they also apply to all services being managed. So all services that being managed, you need to consider these four dimensions. That is, the these four dimensions impact our service value chain. It impacts our service. It impacts all our practices. It is relevant to all practices, meaning it is relevant to all processes, all capabilities of a company, all the activities of a company, all the governance, everything in IT is, you know, bounded, or everything in IT, one way or the other, these four dimensions affect them. And the first one is organizations and people, information and technology. Second one, partner and suppliers, then value streams and processes. So organization is expected to consider all aspects of their behavior. Okay, but it would also become too focused on one dimension and neglect the other. So these four dimensions are all supposed to be considered. They are all guidance necessary to be considered by organization. Organization should not consider one and leave out the other dimension. Okay, so the first dimension is organizations and people. And we did mention that when we talk about organization and people, we are talking about the way in which organization is being structured and managed. How is the organization structured? How is it managed? What are the roles, responsibility? What are the system of authority? How is communication being done? And as well as looking at the culture of the company, the leadership value, and that everyone should focus on value creation, and there should be a provision for training, and collaboration should also be allowed. People should be trained. People should have opportunity of having a broad knowledge. So this is very important. Organization must be well structured. Organization must have people who knows their roles and responsibility, and organization must support people to do the job they need to do. Then we talk about information and technology, and we said technology supports our service management. Technology can support the service management. Technology can help in ensuring that service management has, work well, no limitation, and in the sense that you have technology like workflow management system, knowledge bases, which is keeping the knowledge about past incidents, okay, and resolution, so that when such incidents happen again, it will be easier for service desks to be able to prefer a workaround quickly to ensure there is little or no um, little or no downtime. Also, inventory system, communication system, and a lot of tools are being provided through technology. Without the technological tools and technology applications, it will be difficult for a company to actually provide the outcome that the customer require, and to also be difficult to have value being created for the customers. Also, under IT, we talk about the architecture. That IT architecture is also very important. Organizations need to be sure that their IT architecture, okay, are well integrated. They are not using solutions that are working in silos. We also mentioned that under information and technology, we need to have a way to manage our information, have a way by which information is being secured, information exchange between the services and between different services and different service component is being secured and being reliable, accessible, accurate, and relevant information being provided when required. So information management also is very, very key. And information management focus on security of the information that can be required by regulators and can also support compliance as well. We also mentioned that when you talk about technology, you just don't bring in technology because the technology is the latest technology. Before you adopt or a company decide to buy a technology, the company needs to answer some questions such as checking out whether the technology can align with their strategy, whether it is compatible with their current architecture or not, whether the risk that the new technology is imposing is a risk that can be embraced or is a risk that the company cannot take at the moment. So there are a lot of questions that needs to be answered before a technology is being purchased. Also, we talk about cloud computing. The cloud computing is one of the new technology areas where a lot of organizations are heading towards, and we try to mention what are the benefits of cloud computing. We said with cloud computing, it will be very easy for organizations to deploy faster. Okay, they can have a faster deployment of new services or change services, and also it will also help to ensure that they operate what is called an OPEX rather than a CAPEX. And with cloud computing, it will be easier to replace some infrastructures that are probably reaching their end of year in terms of end of life, in terms of maintenance, okay, and that cloud computing re- will introduce higher requirements for network availability and security, and that with cloud computing it provides users with opportunity to be able to scale their service consumption using self-service or via a standard request, which is very simple to actually create the request. And that with cloud computing also, there could be a shift of focus, okay, from monitoring and controlling the resources in-house to monitoring and controlling it from the cloud. Okay, we also mentioned that cloud computing can affect virtually all the practices that we have, all the different processes, all the capabilities that we have in the organization. And we did mention some of the practices such as service level management, supplier management, incident management, problem management. And then we talk about the third dimension, which is the partners and suppliers. We said every organization and every service depends to some extent on service provider. That is, there is no organization that is an island that does not depend on another organization for one service or the other. And one of the things that underpin the relationship between different uh, organizations as a way of partner and supplier relationship is contract or agreement. The contract or agreement need to be drafted that we cover the relationship with the organization. Contracts that will determine the risk, that will determine the responsibility of each partner or each supplier, and also the consumer of the product that will be supplied. Also, we talk about the strategy for cooperation, that there should be a cooperation between the provider, okay, between the supplier, all right, and what kind of strategies did we talk about? We talk about a strategy focus that will focus on competency or as a self-sufficient as possible. That is, when an organization decides to have a relationship with a partner or supplier, there should be like a transfer of knowledge where the company that is receiving the supply or that the partner is working with is able to build competency to be able to use whatever has been provided for them. We also mentioned the demand pattern, that the customer activity or demand for service can be seasonal demand, can also be a variable demand. And cost concern is also very important. That is, there should be more economical way to source a particular requirement from a supplier. Also, we talk about the service integration and management as part of the supplier and partner dimension. So, for an organization, you need to use the partner and supplier dimension. We need to have a way by which we establish a service integration and management to ensure that whatever service or products you will get from supplier and partners, it's able to integrate with the existing infrastructure, with the existing architecture. And by way of this, it's also important to ensure that there's also a way to manage it. And this should be kept inside the organization. Management and integration should be something that the organization that is buying, okay, a product or service from the partner or supplier, they have the knowledge to manage themselves and integrate. They should not keep that outside of their organization for the sake of ensuring that they are very much secure. Okay, but in some cases, there can be some service that actually has to be delegated to a trusted partner. Example is some organization do require that based on the level of internet bandwidth that they consume, they can actually request that the ISP organization, the internet service provider, provide them a staff of theirs who will resume with them in the office, sit with them in the office to ensure that if there is a downtime, that staff of the ISP within their company is the one that will be able to be the first point of support to restore the service. And that person will also be able to relate with other staff that are probably at the back end in the ISP organization. So example of what enables service integration and management is what they call things like as a service, okay, which is a bundle of goods and services. Example can be database as a service, infrastructure as a service, platform as a service, and many other things available now in IT as a service, which is a bundle of goods and services to a single product that can be consumed as a utility, as something fit for purpose. Okay, the last one is the value streams and processes. The value stream and processes applies to both the service value system and in general applies to specific product and services. So when you're talking about the service value system, that defines all the activities, the workflow that is being done, the control, the procedure put in place to achieve an agreed objective. So the dimension focuses, that is the value stream and process dimension, it focuses on the activities that the company will undertake, how the activity will be organized, and how the company will ensure that the activity enable value, create value, realize value for all stakeholders. And to be able to achieve this, the value streams and processes creates what is called the ITIL service value chain. So the service value chain is an operating model, which of course is generic. It can be used by any organization or by all organizations, and this follow a pattern, and this pattern are called the value stream. So inside of the value, your service value system, you have the value stream, which we'll look at. What's a value stream? The value stream refers to the series of steps that organization will undertake so as to create and deliver products and services to customers. And by combination of these, we are talking about value stream being a combination of value chain activity. A value stream is a combination of value stream activities, that is, activities that can create value. And this value stream is expected to provide value stream optimization, which includes a process of automating or adapting or emerging technology. Value stream should be adaptable and continually improved. So the value chain activities are activities that from time to time should be continually improved upon and many times can require automation. So what is a process? A process is regarded as set of interrelated or interacting activities. So under your value stream, which is a combination of activities, you can also group the activities into what is called process or processes. Okay, so processes define the sequence of actions and the dependencies. When we talk about process describe what is done to achieve a particular objective. They are usually they are usually being detailed in procedure, and processes outline who is involved in the process and what is the work instruction the person is doing, and also how the person is carrying out the work. So when you talk about a process, the same structure of value chain, value stream, processes, procedure, and work instruction apply to services. And this will help to create, deliver, and improve a service as well. Okay, so the four dimensions of service management is being influenced by external factors. It's been influenced by external factors. What are the factors? The factors are political factors, economic, social, technological factors, legal factors, and environmental factor. And we mentioned yesterday that the short form of this is simply called PESTO. That's the way to remember it. Okay. How do you remember all the six environmental factors that influences the four dimensions: political, economical, social factors, technological factor, legal factor, and environmental factor. An example of each of these factors are listed here. Political factors can be due to tax policies, it can be due to change of government, and then the economic factors can be due to inflation rate, interest rate, foreign exchange. Social factor can be due to the cultural trend, the buying trend, the seasonal behavior of the people, and then technological can be because of automation, because of research and development, because of the technical awareness in the marketplace, and the impact also of new media. Okay, that can be a technological factor that can influence the four dimension. Under legal, we could have the consumer law, the labor law. Under the environmental factors, we could have geographical location, the climate change, the green agenda, the emission. And we mentioned that all these factors, okay, collectively influence how an organization can configure their resources. They influence how organization can address the four dimension of services. These factors influence how you can configure your resources, and now you can also address the four dimension that we have mentioned. Okay, and then we also talk about the next lesson. Okay, we'll talk about the value system, understanding the purpose and the component of the ITIL service value system. Okay, the ITIL service value system is divided into three parts. We said we have the input, which is either opportunity or demand. We have the components, which are five of them: guiding principle, governance, service value system, practices, continual improvement. And then we have the third part, which is the value being created. So these are the three main parts of the service value system: the input, which is either opportunity or demand; the components, which are five of them; as well as the output, which is talking about the objective and the value being created. Okay, so what is the purpose of the service value system? Okay, the purpose of the service value system is to ensure that organization can continually co-create value with all their stakeholders by using and managing their product and services. So the value system is all about how organization can continue to co-create. Co-create means you create with your consumers as well. The provider co-create value with consumer. Okay, they co-create with all stakeholders, with consumers, with employees, with the community, through the use or through the use and management of product and services. So the value system also describe all the components and the activities of an organization that work together as a system to create value or to enable value creation. So all the activities, all the different components of organization, they are working together to create value through what they call the service value system. So we'll look at the activities, which are the steps the organization take in creating value. Okay, so the inputs and the output of the service value system. The inputs are one, opportunity as well as demand. Opportunity represent the options, the possibility to add value to stakeholder or to improve an organization, the opportunity available in the market, opportunity available for an organization to add more value or to add value. Then demand can be the desire for products among internal external consumer. So demand requires to the need or desire for products, whereas opportunity refers to the options or possibilities that are available. So the input to the activities that generate value can be based on an opportunity or based on a demand. And the outcome we're talking about refers to the value, okay, or benefit, which is the perceived benefit and the usefulness of whatever service or product an organization is actually delivering. Okay, and then we'll talk about the components. There are five of them: guiding principle, which is a recommendation; the governance, which is a way organization is directed and controlled. The way an organization is directed and controlled is called governance. We'll talk about the service value chain. Service value chain is interconnection of activities that is being performed to deliver product. We'll talk about practices, which is referred to as set of resources, organizational resources designed for performing work and accomplishing an objective. We'll also talk about the fifth component, which is the continual improvement. A continual improvement is a recurring activity that is being performed at all levels to ensure that the performance is improved continuously or that the performance meets the stakeholders' expectation continuously. All right, and what are the challenges that can come from the activities that are being done together? You can have challenges such as organizational silos, where an organization find it difficult to work effectively and efficiently, where a lot of people in the organization are doing different things, and there's no kind of integration, okay, between different departments, different units in the organization. Silos can be resistant to change, and that can prevent easy access to information. Also, silos can also make communication and collaboration difficult across group. So any organization that cannot break their silos will also not be able to implement ITIL4 and get the required benefit. All right, so challenges addressed. What are the challenges that the service value system address? The service value system is specifically architected to enable flexibility. So with service value system, the silo working is discouraged. Silo working is discouraged. Also, we mentioned that ITIL is not prescriptive, it's not definite, it's just providing guidance, it's just providing recommendation that can be used to make sure that an organization is delivering value by being flexible in the activities, okay, but yet safe and efficient. And for this, there should also be a continual improvement of all activities at all levels of the organization. And we said for service value system, there are also other framework upon which the service value system is being built. What are the other framework? Agile, DevOps, and Lean. Okay, organization agility and resilience. We mentioned that an organization should be agile and should be resilient. Agile means that the organization is able to move and adapt quickly, flexibly, and decisively to support any changes that occur internally. That is agility. And then Resilience means an organization should anticipate, they should prepare for, respond to, and adapt to any incremental changes. They should be able to adapt to any sudden disruption from external perspective. So, for external changes, an organization must prepare for external changes through resilience. For internal changes, organization must prepare through organization agility. Okay, organization should have, for example, if you have people in the organization who have skills in a particular area, that skills should be spread across. They should be able to prove, they should be able to have more people with the same skill, so that when someone leave the company, when someone resign, okay, whatever service or product the person is supporting, someone else can take it over. That is for an organization that is agile. An agile company organization will make sure that there is no one person who is the only one that has the knowledge about a particular service or product. Knowledge and services will be made available to more than one person. That will make them to be agile, to be able to adapt even if someone leave the company, which is an example of internal changes. Example of internal changes is when somebody resign, do you have a replacement for them? So there should be a skill map done to identify skill gap, and in identifying skill gap, and the skill gap should be taken into action to make sure that people have the right skill they need to have, and that people can do the job of another person. You can have someone to replace another person if the person is on leave, if the person is suddenly resign, or anything happen to the person, the company service and product value will not reduce. That is responding to internal changes. That is organizational agility. The organizational resilience deals more with responding to external, you know, disruptions, and that means the company is able to anticipate, prepare for it. You are able to respond and adapt to that as well. So, for a company to be successful, you must have both agility and resilience that can support your internal changes and withstand or thrive in a changing external circumstances, as the case may be. With a good service value system in place, organization can achieve both agility and resilience. All right. And then we started the lesson which we did not finish. Service value chain. Okay, what is service value chain? Service value chain refers to an operating model which outlines the key activities required to respond to demand and facilitate the value realization. So when you talk about service value system, that is the central part of your service value. The service value chain is the central part of the service value system. And in a service value chain, we are talking about ensuring our key activities are being outlined to be able to respond to demand and to facilitate the value that is to be realized. And to achieve this, there are six key activities. The first one is planning, the second one is improve, the third one is engage, the fourth one is design, the fifth one is build and obtain, sixth one is to deliver and support. Okay, the value chain, the service value chain, like we mentioned before, they are activities that are connected to and they interact with one another. Okay, and these activities also are to provide trigger for further action. That is, one activity leads to the other activity. That is, one activity can trigger another activity. This activity helps to convert input to output. From this side, you can see this is the input, okay, to our service value system. To be able to get to the outputs, you need the service value chain. So service value chain convert the input into output through various uh, activities which are chained together, okay, or combined together. And then these activities can actually make use of different practices such as supplier manager management, service desk management, relationship management, service desk request, and all others to be able to achieve the output. The service value stream. What is the service value streams? The value stream is a combination of activities and practices. So when you combine activities and practices together, as we mentioned before, that the service value chain, okay, draw upon some practices. Now, when you combine your activities that are inside of the service value chain together with practices, then you call that service value streams. Okay, so service value stream is a combination of both activities and practices, which of course is being designed for a particular scenario. So, example of the generic practices, because when you're talking about practices, there are a whole lot of practices available in ITIL or for ITIL4. And then the generic ones are these five: business analysis, development, testing, release, and support. So for all the activities, they required these practices to go along with them. These practices are applied differently, and the way it is being applied will also depend on the scenario and the products that we are referring to. Okay, so example is if you want to improve on a new service, I mean on an existing service, or you want to introduce a new service. For you to improve on an existing service or introduce a new service, you have to do the business analysis. Okay, let us assume the company is using, let's say, 10 megabytes, okay, up and down as their internet. Now, if they are using 10 megabytes up and down, for them to increase, let's say to 20 or 30, they need to first do a business analysis. Is this justified? Where is the cost going to be charged against? And then how do we go about the development? How do we test? How do we release it and deploy it to the users? And then how do we get support for it? So these are practices that gener- generally underpin many of the activities of introducing new or change services. Okay, planning. We said planning is the key one. Planning should be done at all levels. The planning at all levels is done through plan activity. You must plan how you engage with internal and external. You must plan your design. You must plan your build. You must plan your design, delivery, and plan support. Okay, and also have a plan for improvement. So planning is talking about the activity that provide share understanding of the vision. Why are we doing what we are doing? Where do you want to see the organization? What is the vision, the future? What do you want to achieve with the introduction of a new service or changing of a current service? So that's what the planning deals with. And the planning is what is done at all levels. Okay. Then improve. Improve is the purpose of improve is to ensure continual improvement of products, of services, and even the practices that we are talking about. Okay. In a value stream, we say it's a combination of activities and practices. So improve is the way by which we ensure continual improvement of the products, of the services, and the practices being involved. So the improvement at all levels are initiated and managed via improve. So improvement at this level, at this level, at this level, at this level should be done under improve. Then the next one is engage. Engage is a way by which you provide a good understanding of the stakeholder needs and also maintain good relationship with all stakeholders. So at the engage level, the interaction with external parties, okay, is done via engage. All incoming and outgoing interaction with parties that are external to the value chain. The parties that are not working within this value chain, the interaction is done through the engage stage of service value chain. Design and transition. This is to ensure that products and services continually meet what is being designed to meet the stakeholders' expectation in terms of the quality, in terms of the cost, and in terms of the in terms of time to market. It is one thing to have the right quality, it's another thing to also ensure that the time to market is the right time. You don't get to the market late when competitors have already flooded the markets. Okay, obtain stroke build. That is obtain or build. Okay, so at obtain or build, that is where all new resources is being obtained. So new resources can be obtained by either buying it, okay, which is obtained especially from external, okay, or being built, which is majorly done internally, okay. And for obtain or build, that is the service components to ensure that service components are available when, where it is being needed, and that the service meets the agreed specification. Okay, and these services require that a new resource is either built or is purchased, built internally or being purchased from external, from provider or supplier. Deliver and support. The purpose of this is to ensure that the services are designed, are delivered, and are supported according to. So under delivery, we are talking about delivering and support that is being delivered and it's also being supported according to the agreed specification and the expectation of the stakeholders. Okay, then we talk about the agile ITSM. We said that agile is a methodology that we know with software development. And when we talk about service management, even in service management, software is part of what is being managed under IT service management. And therefore, the agile software development best practice can also be applied to service management. And under the agile software development, we have these points to mention. The first one is that in agile software development, there is always a provision for feedback analysis and direct observation. And this will ensure that the requirement is evolving continuously. So in agile, requirement is not being made static. Requirement is not only given before a project begins. The requirement can also come in between the project. That is, all the requirements are not gathered up front. So in Agile, Agile make provision for a new requirement to come in through a feedback analysis or by direct observation. Prior to Agile, we used to have what they call waterfall, which require you to have a blueprint. And when we talk about a blueprint, in a blueprint, all the requirements that you need, they are all the requirements are gathered and documented. And based on the blueprint, that is what is being taken into development, and nothing will be allowed, so to say, that is not in the blueprints. But for agile, we don't work with blueprints because we want to allow change. Okay, we want to continue to evolve. We know that the requirement cannot be all gathered upfront. So in waterfall, all requirements are gathered upfront. But for agile, requirement evolves by getting feedback from the users and also through direct observation. Another thing under the agile software development is that you don't develop everything at once, because also like we said, you don't get all the requirement at once. So you break down development into small increments or iterations that can be done, in iterations. Also, the agile methodology uses what they call a product-based cross-functional team. That is, people that need to work together to deliver a working software, which is called minimum viable software, are put together to work. People across different departments are put together to work. Also, in Agile, there is always a daily discussion, which is called a daily stand up, to discuss the progress of whatever activities is being done. And this is also made visible, visible to everybody to ensure collaboration. And they do that by using Kanban, okay, which we will see much later. So this is Kanban. In Kanban board, Kanban provide visibility to what are the activities yet to be done, what are the things that you are to do, what are the things you are doing at development stage, what are the things that has been done at testing, what is being done, what is being deployed as well. Okay, so Agile ITSM, like we said, Agile can be adopted in service management as well. When we adopt Agile in service management, it will help the organization to be able to adapt to changes and to be able to ensure that value is being created. Now, if Agile is not adopted for service management across all life cycle, that means across all the activities we have mentioned, across the engage, across the plan, across the improve, across the build, across the obtain. If you do not adopt Agile, then Agile will be done in silo. And if it is done in silo, it will create what is called a fragmented Agile, and that becomes costly and a wasteful complication. So Agile is supposed to be embraced at all the phases of the activities that is being done under service management. Okay, and on that note, we also ended that lesson yesterday. Okay, we answered these questions yesterday, and then we started as well the guiding principle. So the guiding principle is about recommendations that can guide a company in all circumstances. Again, for the purpose of the exam, the guiding principle is supposed to guide not in certain circumstances, but in all circumstances, regardless of what the goal is. That is the goal of the new service you are introducing, the goal of the change service or your strategy, the type of work you want to do, regardless of the structure of your management that you have. The ITIL guiding principle is expected or recommended to be used at all levels. And there are 7 of these guiding principles, and this guiding principle is expected to, you are not supposed to decide which one to use and which one not to use. You are supposed to check each of the guiding principle against the activities you want to do. That is to say that the good decision is to use all type at all levels. Okay, so you use all the ITIL guiding principle, and then you can decide which of the guiding principle you are going to use. Also, this guiding principle is not only in ITIL, this guiding principle also comes from other frameworks, other method, other standards or body of knowledge as well. Okay, so with the guiding principle, we'll be able to interact and depend upon each other. So the guiding principle interacts with each other. That is, the guiding principle, there are 7 of them. They do not work in isolation. And that is why a company cannot say, I am going to use just 1 or 2 of the guiding principle. I will not use the others. No, you need all the guiding principle because they depend upon each other and they interact with each other. Okay. However, In some critical stage, you may not apply all of them, but first should review on each occasion to determine which of the guiding principle you need to use. But you should first note that you need to have all of them, accept that all the guiding principle are principles that will help you to get or to deliver value to your customer. So let's look at the guiding principles. There are seven of them. The first one is focusing on value. The second one is start where you are. Okay, focusing on value means that everything that the company will do, you check that everything map directly or indirectly to value for your stakeholders. Whatever will be done, map directly or indirectly to value, okay, to your stakeholder. Also, start where you are is the next one. Start where you are means that you don't have to start from scratch. You have to build on your current state. That means you need to investigate, you need to assess your current state. The third one is progressing iteratively with feedback. That means you don't need to attempt to do everything at once. You don't have to roll out everything at once. You should organize your company into smaller, manageable sections. Whatever work you want to do, organize it into smaller, manageable sections that you can execute and complete in a timely manner. And that is why we mentioned the agile. With agile, I did mention that agile expect that you can break your work into what can be achieved in 2 to 4 weeks, okay, rather than having something you want to achieve in 3 months. You can say, okay, we want to achieve this in 3 months. How can we subdivide it into what we can achieve per month, and we can measure the minimum thing we can achieve per month that is a useful software or application or service that we can do in 1 month. The next one is collaborate and promote visibility. Collaborate and promote visibility means you must work together, work across boundaries. Don't limit yourself to the department where you work alone. Collaborate with people in other departments, okay, to achieve your goal. And apart from collaboration, you also need to promote visibility. Let people know. Provide agenda. There should not be hidden agenda. Information should be shared to the greatest degree possible. Information should be shared with people who needs to know. If there are 10 people in a team working, then all the 10 people should know what they need to know. Not that from the 10 people you create another caucus of 5 people, and the other people are actually not aware of what is going on. The next one is to think holistically, think and work holistically. What this means is that no service or element used to provide the service should stand alone. We should look at how to integrate. Okay, whatever we want to do should be able to integrate with both internal, okay, the staff internally, integrates also with the way of work, okay, that the company is already engaged in. It must integrate with the technology that the company is using, integrate with the practice, integrate with partners and agreement that you currently have in place. Then keep it simple and practical. If a process or service fails to provide value or to produce a useful outcome, the best is to eliminate it, make it simple. If the process is not simple, people will circumvent it. So making it simple means you ensure that people can easily work with the application that is being deployed. People can easily work with the service or make use of the service without looking for alternative things. So the steps should be minimized. Okay, that is one of the ways to make it simple. Minimize steps. If the steps they are used to before on the former service is about 10 steps, and you now come up with an improved service, and the step has now improved, increased from 10 to 20, definitely it is not simple. And if it's not simple, it becomes not practical for people to make use of. So we must use an outcome-based thinking to produce a practical solution. Outcome-based thinking means how will the user perceive it? Will the user perceive it as something that is better than what they are using before? Okay, then the last one is optimize and automate. All your resources should be used to the best benefit. Eliminate anything that is truly wasteful. Okay, use technology to achieve whatever is capable of achieving. Eliminate waste, ensuring that anything that can be automated, that the computer can do, okay, approvals that can be automated are automated. Reduce the human intervention as much as possible. That is what we discuss under optimize and automate. Okay, back again to agile methodology, because again we have mentioned that as far as ITIL 4 is concerned, the agile methodology which is being used under software is meant to be adopted also for in our service delivery or in service management. All right, so under the agile methodology, we need to focus on delivery and evolution of requirements from small team. The agile methodology is a time box. Like I mentioned, it could be between 2 weeks to 4 weeks. That's ideal time for, okay, agile time box, 2 to 4 weeks. And this is supposed to be flexible, adaptable approach that is focusing on rapid response to change. So within 2 to 4 weeks, we expect a working software or working service which is a minimum viable. Now, minimum viable means that it does not have all the features. So it takes in additional requirements, and that requirement, the new requirement, goes into the new iteration. This is the first sprint or first iteration. After that is done, another one. So at each sprint, there is a design, development, testing, and a new discovery. So at every point in time, this is being done. So this sprint is what I mentioned that should be from 2 to 4 weeks. When agile methodology is being adopted, team will be organized. Teams that are self, so there will be team organized, and this team are team that will have high degree of collaboration between customers, users, and development team. So the people who are working on a particular project, okay, or improvement of a particular service are people who are supposed to collaborate with different people in the, you know, different people like the consumers, the customers, the users, and the development team. All right, and of course, the agile could also have some possible challenges, such as the capability of the company. The company may not have people who are well trained on what agile is, and then how to conduct, maybe how to conduct the daily stand-up meeting. Also, there could be a challenge of people focusing on futures and fixes rather than focusing on improving services. That is, people whose focus is let's take the new thing. What are the new thing? And they forget about improving the existing one. Also, there could be higher costs over time, okay, if it's not well managed. And this can also result in over-engineered project. That is a project that has been built iteratively, and that project is actually having too many features than is even required. That is over-engineered projects. All right, ITIL and Agile are supposed to work in cooperation. So ITIL can complement Agile, okay, to enable effective, stable, and faster deployment within the context of a wider service concept. And this can also reduce cost. So together, both ITIL and Agile can lead to better coordination between the Agile project and other service area which might not work with Agile method. And that's very important. There are some other business or service that may not work with Agile methods. Okay, that is to say, Agile, all projects cannot be through Agile. There will still be some that has to be through the waterfall approach or other approach to project management. Agile shares common theme with ITIL. What are the common things that we have? They support each other to produce highly effective practices. So example of what is common between ITIL and Agile, continual improvement. It's part of key to ITIL, it's also key to Agile. Problem management, is part of ITIL, part of Agile. Change management is part of ITIL, part of Agile. Risk management is part of ITIL, part of Agile. Deployment management is also in Agile, also in ITIL as well. Okay, ITIL and DevOps in cooperation. ITIL and DevOps. DevOps arose from increasing success of Agile software projects. That is, DevOps actually is part came out of the success that was achieved using agile software projects, okay, which of course leads to more release, frequent release. With agile you have frequent releases, okay. DevOps centers on processes that involve delivering software to live environment with a focus on unifying technical operations and delivery. The name DevOps is a combination of development and operations team. So the development team in this context is regarded as the delivery team, the people that deliver the software. And the operations team is the technical operations. So DevOps is about unifying technical operations and delivery, or what you call development team, okay, to ensure that the software is being delivered to live environments, okay, without friction. Because if you do not unify them, there will be friction, there will be a lot of bug passing, okay, a blame game. These are part of issues that used to happen before, okay, prior to the advent of the DevOps. You used to have a lot of frictions between the technical operations and delivery team, okay. Also a lot of blame games between the technical and the delivery team. All right, well, with the unification of both of them, the friction is removed, the blame game is removed, they are able to work together as one team, okay. Anyone with responsibility for change enablement, release management, service operations should be part of agile team, okay, so as to work effectively together. So anyone who is part of these practices, change enablement is a practice, release management is a practice, service operation is also a practice, okay, in ITIL 4. And these practices have people who are responsible for it, okay, people who are like managing it. They are supposed to be part of agile team so that they can work together as one. Under the release management, service operation, you have people in both operations and people also in delivery. So under delivery, you have developers, okay, you have developers, and then you can also break down developers into maybe database. You can break them to application developer, okay. You can have application developer here as well, app developer, okay. You can have web developer, okay, and a whole lot of others under developer or delivery team. So unifying both of them with the aim of delivering software to live without any friction, blame game, and issues that do arise when the two of them were separate is what they call the DevOps. All right, so all coming together means the DevOps, the Agile, and ITIL. All of them come together, okay, and they achieve the IT service roles, they achieve creation of value. The agile roles within team can be multi-purpose and it can be aligned to ITSM. What are the roles? In agile, you have product managers, product owner. These people can also perform the job of what? They can perform the role of service owner. So under ITIL, you have what they call service owner, someone who is managing a particular service. And that particular person can also be regarded as someone who is doing the job of a product manager or product owner. Then we also have another role, job role within Agile called Scrum Master. Scrum Master is similar to somebody who is doing the job of a change manager in ITIL. So this is ITIL, okay? These are ITIL roles that we have, okay? And on this side, these are the Agile roles that we have. So these are Agile roles. Problem manager, product manager in ITIL role, it's service owner. Scrum Master in IT role is change manager. Then Scrum Masters are already running retrospective and ensuring lessons are learned, which can form a part of continual improvement practice. So, what the Scrum Manager, part of the task that the Scrum Manager perform, also falls under what a continuous service, a continual improvement manager would do, or under the continual improvement practice. So this is also an ITIL role, okay? And then this one too is part of what you have in ITIL. That's continual improvement practice. So this aligns the agile role to ITSM roles. Okay? So ITIL and agile can be a great allies. An agile team focus on customer needs and satisfaction through the lens of the overall service, and that is supposed to deliver greater value. So with ITIL, okay, value is key. With agile, value is also key. However, this value must be done in a what? In a shorter amount of time. And that's why I mentioned that for agile, we're looking at delivering value between 2 to 4 weeks. All right. What are the set of principles that are being compared? So in Agile, there's what they call Agile Manifesto. This Agile Manifesto is what you can compare with ITIL guiding principle. Agile Manifesto states that individuals and interaction within any projects that you are doing, the individuals within that are members of the team, the project team, and their interactions among themselves, and interactions with the people who are outside of the team to be able to get their feedback is preferred over processes and tools. You can have all the processes, you can have all the tools, but Agile says interactions and having the right individual in the team matters more than having processes and tools. And this is similar to the guiding principle that says start where you are. Start where you are. See how you can use the people you have. Not every time you need to go and bring in people from outside to be part of a project. Start with the people you are. Build interactions among them. As far as ITIL guiding principle is concerned, start where you are, principle apply to this particular manifesto. Keep it simple and practical. Also apply to using individuals and interaction over processes and tools. There are some things you can do, for example, with using Excel rather than going to use another software that may be difficult for users. Okay, so if you put people together in a team, they may be find it easy to use Excel than to use maybe a project management software. Project management software like MS Project. If people in the company they have not been using MS Project before, okay, or Primavera, Primavera, Microsoft Projects, Primavera, the example of project management software or example of project management tools. So if people in your company that you are putting together to work on a new service or to work on improving a service, if they are not used to project management tools like project Microsoft Projects and Primavera, it is better they use the Excel they are used to. And that is what we mean by keep it simple and practical. Excel is simple for them to use, is more practical for them to use, then let them use it. Rather than telling them you must go and learn project, Microsoft Project, you must go and learn Primavera. So, and that also aligns with the Agile Manifesto, which says individuals and interaction is preferred over processes and tools. It's not saying that don't use processes, don't use tools, but that you should lay emphasis on interaction and the individuals that are available to be part of the projects or part of the improvement activity. The next one says working software over comprehensive documentation. Agile Manifesto says that working software is preferred over comprehensive documentation. In before now, when you use waterfall approach, waterfall is always having a comprehensive documentation, which is called your blueprints. That's the common one we use under when you do a project management based on waterfall, you have what they call blueprints. And blueprint is just what? A comprehensive documentation of all the features that are expected, the features they are going to use now, the one the company may not use until 3 years' time. Comprehensive. And manifesto of Agile says we prefer a working software rather than documentation. The comprehensive documentation many a times will result in a software taking 1 year to sometime to 3 years before it can be implemented. There are some softwares like ERP applications that takes up to 3 years to be implemented. Why? Because they are based on comprehensive documentation. And so a working software does not happen until 3 years after. But with Agile, you can have a working, so Agile prefer working software over comprehensive documentation. And this aligns with the IT guiding principle that says focus on value. Identify what are the things that can give you value. What are the things that can help to give assurance? What are the things that can provide the functionalities required? Another IT principle is thinking and working holistically. Then we'll talk about another set of principles under Agile Manifesto. Customer collaboration is to be preferred over contract negotiation. Customer collaboration. Many people that uses non-agile method, they always based everything on contract, contract, contract. They do not collaborate with customers. And because they base it on contracts, they always refer to according to the blueprint. Blueprint is part of the things that are document for contract negotiation. So they will say, this is not part of our negotiated contract. It's not part of the documented contract. So because of that, we are not going to take it, even though if it is minor change or a minor additional requirement that probably does not take up to 1 day man hour, because they are always basing everything on contracts, they will not include that future. But Agile says you should do more of customer collaboration than contracts. In customer collaboration, what do we do? You develop a minimum viable product, a working software that has some of the features that the customer has briefed you about, and you go and show it to the customer. When you show it to the customer, you are showing it to them because you want them to collaborate with you. That's why you are showing it to them. So when you show them what you have done, then they will provide an input. So the input they will provide for you, that input will help you to do other things. So that is MVP. Okay, and this also aligns with the guiding principle that talks about focusing on value, collaborate and promote visibility. You must collaborate with the business. You must collaborate with the end users, those who will use the application, those who will, those who are expecting outcome. You must collaborate with them from time to time and not base everything on contract which has been signed before you even start to develop or to work with the service improvement activities. Then the next one, responding to change over following a plan. Again, this also traces back to blueprints. According to blueprints, there is a after a blueprint, there will be a plan created, a time plan. And a time plan will be this is what we are going to do first week, 1 month, and then create in a plan too. They create something called milestone to say this is the first milestone, second milestone, third milestone. Now that is talking about plan. Plan is good. However, under Agile Manifesto, you have to it is preferred that you able to respond to change rather than following a plan. Respond to a change in the sense that if you have, let's say, three milestones, milestone one, milestone two, milestone three, that's already in the plan. A company can decide to say, we want to, we don't want you to deliver milestone one again. Please go and deliver the milestone three. The milestone three plan is probably meant for the second year. But as long as that is what they want now, that is what they require, then under Agile, we'll be able to respond to that change. But if you are not using Agile methodology, you will stick to plan. And this also aligns with ITIL guiding principle that says progress iteratively with feedback. That is, when you finish the milestone one, you should go back and show the customer. Let the customer give you a feedback. The feedback will tell you whether you are going to go to milestone two or they want to you to jump to milestone three. And that is still talking about responding to change. Also, keeping it simple and practical. The company can feel that, oh, we don't want this one again. We want the third one. And if that's what they want, that is what should be given to them. And that can only be possible when you use Agile, which also align with ITIL. Okay, focusing on value. That is, remember, we have 7 principles. Now we want to take them one by one. The first principle is focusing on value. I have explained some of this before, so we would take them again in detail. Focusing on value. Everything that you do as a company, you should link it back either directly or indirectly to value. Value for who? Value for the company itself, value for the customer, and it can also be value for stakeholders. Who are stakeholders? Stakeholders can be shareholder, can be the provider employees, can be the consumers, can be the users. Okay, value can come in various forms. Not all value are tied to money. It is not all value that monetary value. Okay, like when you talk about the NGO now, NGO, non-governmental organization, their own value is not always in terms of monetary terms. Okay, so value can be in form of revenue, it can be in form of loyalty. There are some things that the company will do not because it will increase their revenue, but it will increase their customer loyalty. Also, value can be in form of lower costs. Value can also be in form of growth opportunity. Value can be in form of ensuring that you reduce your cost of production. For example, if you look at check now, we mentioned checkbook. If you look at checkbook, and then you look at ATM card, ATM card. Now, which one is cheaper, ATM card or checkbook? Alan, Daliso, which one is cheaper? Which one is cheaper to maintain? Okay, okay. So yeah, Okay. Yeah, yeah. Well, for me, if you talk about checkbook, you know that checkbook, one, you pay per leave. Per leave, that is why you have different leave. So you can collect 25 leave, you can collect 50 leaves. If you collect 25 leaves, you pay less than 50 leave because they charge per leave. Now, if you have 25 leave and you issue check to 25 people within a month, what has happened to your checkbook? 25 leave. You have used it up. You have to go and collect another one. Is that not so? Now, you also pay for the new one they will issue to you. Now, because you are issuing a checkbook, does not mean that they are not going to charge you. The ATM, yes, they charge. Also, there's a transaction charge for processing a checkbook. It's also not free. Checkbook are processed with also a charge. So ATM is also with a charge. So if you look at it on the long run, in a year, depending on how many customer a company issue check to, you can end up using 5 check leaves in a year. Whereas with ATM, for example, you have what is called at least 3 years to use it. That's one. Two, apart from ATM, you also know there's what they call mobile app. Abi? Mobile app. What do you do with checkbook? You use it to pay people, right? So you do a check so they can go and catch it. You can also do a transfer with your mobile app or internet banking. So if you look at mobile app, internet banking, and ATM, okay, all the three replaces our replace the checkbook. And in one way or the other, it has reduced, lower the costs of the customer in the sense that if you use a check, you will pay per check leaf. You will have to go and collect or wait for a new check leaf if suddenly you used it up without pre-requesting before you finished. They will take time to print it and all that. All those time lost, if you also turn them to money, it is cheaper to go the route of ATM, mobile app, and internet banking than using check leaf. Okay? Um, Dalisu, do you agree? Based on this analysis? Exactly. It's more so that is value. So the value is not only monetary, it's not only revenue, it's also like you mentioned, more convenient. And because it's also more convenient, it also gets some customer loyalty. Okay, so value can come in different form. Now, who is the service consumer? Who consumes the service? When you focus on value, the first step is to know who is being served. In each situation, the provider must determine who the consumer is and what the the key stakeholders, who they are, who are the stakeholders, who is the consumer, who will receive the value from what is being delivered or improved. So that is the first principle, first recommendation that for any new service you want to introduce, for any new service you want to for the existing service you want to improve, you must first think about focus on value. In focusing on value, identify who is or who are the consumer, who will consume it, and then who are the key stakeholders. Apart from the consumers, you also have the key stakeholders as well. Then, of course, what is their perception? So remember to address the various stakeholders, not only customers. That's very important. Key thing under focusing on value, it is not only customers, but what? Your key stakeholder group as well. Not only customers. Okay, you must look at your stakeholders as well. For example, if something is good for your customer and the stakeholders, let's look at the shareholders, is not the shareholding is value is coming down and the customers are happy. Have you provided value? No, because the stakeholders, to a large extent, some of them in stakeholders, we also have sponsors, those who approve the budget. If they see that you have spend more than the budget approved for you last year because you are focusing only on customer. By the time you come this year for the next year budget, they will definitely not be willing to provide that. And we have mentioned that anything you do, as far as service management is concerned, you must have the mindset of continuity, of doing it continuously and improving it. So customer expect that by next year it will be better off. Okay, so we must take note of that. That you don't address value only on based on customers, but also on your stakeholders as well. Customers' perspective. When identified, okay, that's when you identify your customer. You need the provider needs to further know why the customer, why are they using these services? What service help them to do? What is the service helping them to do? How the service help them meet their goals? Then costs and consequence of this service consumer. Remember, we mentioned cost imposed. That's what it's saying here. Under the service consumer, we are talking about what? Cost imposed. What is the cost imposed on them by virtue of this service? So you must look at it. What is the cost imposed? Then the next one, the role of risk. What is the risk for the service consumer? So you identify the consumer, then you also need to answer the question, why do they use the service? We have mentioned internet banking, mobile app banking, ATM card. Why are they using it? Okay, they are using it because of the convenience. What the service help them to do? Help them to transfer money, help them to open another sub account, help them to pay people who have accounts, even people who don't have accounts, they can do e-wallet for them. Help to how the service help them to meet their goal. Maybe the goal of paying their staff on time without issuing a check. The goal of being in control to do direct, to pay, to set up a direct debit easily. Then what is the cost or the financial consequence? Maybe every month they pay 100 rands, 200 rands, you know, as bank charges with VAT. Okay, compared to the cost before the ATM and this, is it cheaper? Is it more expensive? Then what is the role of the risk? What is the risk? The risk here is how is their card being secured? Are you sure their card is well secured? If their card is being stolen or used, how can they get it, blocked? What are the risks involved in using ATM, mobile internet banking, as well as your mobile app? Okay, value can be defined by the service consumers needs. We mentioned that before. Value is always seen from the consumer's own needs, and this value can be achieved through supported in the support for intended outcome. It must be the outcome that the consumer wants. And apart from the outcome, it must also be able to optimize its cost and risk. Also, very important, everything changes in life. So also value changes in different circumstances. Value changes in different circumstances. And that is why we also mention continual improvement. When you have a continual improvement process in place or practice in place, as value changes over time, you will equally be able to meet the change or the new value that the customer currently have. Okay. Um, After this page, we'll take a break. We'll take our tea break for 15 minutes. All right. The customer or user experience. An important element of a value is the experience. Yeah, user experience. They call it CS, customer experience, or you say UX, user experience. So, user experience is defined as the entirety of the interaction of a customer or the interaction of a user with an organization and its products. A product, like we have said, can have a wonderful, can give a wonderful output. Okay, the output is the tangible and intangible results that you get from the internal point of view, from the provider point of view. The output can be wonderful, but the user experience, the interaction that the user is having with that particular product or with organization. When we talk about products, we're talking about tangible. with organizations. For example, the user wants to log a complaint, and then the user send email to say, oh, I bought this product from your company and it's not working fine. And for 2 days, for 3 days, for 1 week, no response. That is a bad customer experience in that regards. Okay, the experience can determine how the customer feel about the product, and this, of course, is both subjective and objective. The customer experience, user experience is subjective and it's objective. However, that is the way value is measured. Example, when a customer order a product and receives what they order at the promised price and in the promised delivery time, the success of this aspect of the experience is objective, measurable. Why is it objective? It's objective because what? The price is the right price, and then it was also delivered on time. If, for example, there is a promise that it will be delivered in 24 hours and it arrived in 24 hours, and the price tag is still the same price, maybe you are supposed to pay at the point of delivery and you are being asked to pay the same amount of money, then your experience is measurable experience, so it's an objective one. On the other hand, if you don't like the style, let's say the style or the layout of the website where you are ordering it from, this is subjective. Another customer may also like the website, but if you don't like the website, maybe you feel that you have to search, you know, you have to drag down, before you could find what you want to buy. You have to, drag down your mouse. You have to spend time searching for what you are looking for. And for you, because of that, you believe that the user experience, your experience is not good. And that is an example of subjective, because it is not the same for everybody. And it is just you do not probably, maybe there is a search button. Sometimes there'll be a search button somewhere here, and there'll be something to drag down. Somebody may not want to type anything. It will now start to drag down. And because you drag down, maybe what you are looking for, assume it is arranged alphabetical order, let's say A to Z. And what you are looking for starts with letter U. Definitely you have to drag down towards the bottom, okay, of the list before you can find what starts with U. Let's say you're looking for umbrella, okay, but it is subjective because another user would come here looking for maybe something else that starts with Z, and the person will just type it here. And because the person has typed zebra here, it will go straight and bring zebra, unlike you dragging down. That is subjective. And objective is when you can measure it. That is an objective way of analyzing a user experience or a customer experience. All right, any question here before we pause for the 15 minutes tea break? All right, so let's pause for 15 minutes tea break. We'll be back by um quarter, that is 13 minutes to 11. Okay, 13 minutes to 11, we'll be back. All right, thank you. Take a few minutes to just grab a cup of tea, coffee, and we'll be back in 15 minutes time. Let me set the timer.